food and culture, the South Asian platter. Join us as we embark on a culinary journey across South Asia, exploring the rich flavors and tradition that bring us together. Our esteemed panelists Rohini Rana and Devu Patnaik will share their insights, moderated by the expert guidance of Satyagopal Rajgu. Please welcome them to the stage.
Okay, I'll click a picture. I just need a signature.
Next page पे मेरा तो next page
वो आपने जो एक लाइन बोला था आज से समथिंग छपाया जा रहा है वो एक बार प्लीज आप एक बार बोल दो कि मैं करेक्ट बात
दिन में उन्हें छिपाना पड़ता रात में उनकी छिपा
Thank you, ma'am. Can you just take a picture of it?
मेरा समय हो
Hello. May I request the volunteers to kindly usher in the audience who are standing outside. So we'll begin soon.
You can take the book. I don't know.
Hello. So I think it's high time we begin. Let me introduce the panelists today. To my right is Madam Rohini Rana, one-time princess of the Nepal royal family. Now, of course, there are no kings, no princes. She is an authority on Nepali cuisine. She has written 2 books are here. I'm not sure if there are many more books. She must have written a number of articles, mainly on Nepali cuisine, that is Nepali, what do you call, the popular cuisine, and also cuisine coming from the Nepali royal family. She will enlighten us with the topic all three of us discussed is perhaps not properly chosen, that it is Southeast Asian platter. But she gracefully said that, okay, I'll talk about SAARC cuisines. Debu Patnaik, we fondly call him Debu, is perhaps the first creator of pure Oriya cuisine restaurants and outlets, the Dalma chain. Please give him a big hand. I'll just, I'm sandwiched between two giants. I'm not an expert, except that I love food. I'm not an expert on cooking, on cuisines. So I'll start with Madam Rana. The tone I want to set in for the discussion is that Dalma is a typical, today we had, for lunch we had Dalma. It's like the Vietnamese noodle soup, the Hungarian goulash. It's a single dish that gives lentils, that is protein, and also vegetables. It's along with rice or roti, it becomes a complete food, fully nourished and fully satisfying. I wanted to ask Madam Rana whether they have a similar cuisine in Nepal. Now, Dalma can be traced to the maritime history of Odisha, the Odisha's Sadhavas, they used to go in boats and the journey used to take about a month. And what was the vegetable that could be preserved? It is the boiti kakharu, the yellow pumpkin whose shelf life was more than a month. So they would cook it on board the sailing ships, cook some rice, and they used to have a good sustaining meal. He will talk more about it. And I have been asking Madam Raina that the Nepalis have a similar tradition. Gurkhas have been fighting all over the world for the last 200 years. Do they have a similar cuisine which they quickly conjure up, take it, and go to the battlefield, and they're fully nourished? Madam Rana, please.
Thank you, Mr. Rajguru. I'm really humbled and honored to be here participating in this beautiful Kalinga festival. I've participated twice before, but in Nepal. This is my first time coming here to Orissa to speak about food and the Nepalese culture. So to answer your question, there is one similar dish which I'm trying to trace similarly back to dalma, and it's called pani roti. Pani roti is usually consumed on the day of Ekadashi or a fast when you're not having meat and garlic and onions. So you use lentils, and that also a special type of dal. It's called keroko dal, which is small chickpeas. And you add vegetables to it. You even make roti. You just bail out the rotis and you make little diamond shapes. And this is all cooked in the lentil soup with the vegetables, with the fresh vegetables. So that is, while when he asked me this question earlier, that is the thought that came to me. But the main cuisine synonymous to Nepali food is dal bhat tarkari, which is, I guess, similar to dalma in another way. It's even got a similar name. Dal bhat tarkari, when you think of Nepali food, when the Gorkhas go out to fight, what do they miss? What does anyone miss when they are abroad and not getting their staple food? It is dal bhat tarkari, which is explanatory in its own words. It's dal, bhat is rice, tarkari is sabji, and of course, if masu and achar is added into it, it's even more, let's say, really satisfying. I think one of the things that Nepalese miss is their fermented gundruk. We have a lot of fermented food because our topography is, we go through very harsh conditions from the highest mountains in the world to slow rolling hills to the Tarai. So where fresh vegetables are not really available, meat is not available for 6 months, even part of the year in the house, in the high mountainous regions. So there's a lot of fermenting, smoking, drying meat and vegetables. So our Nepalese travel the world, the diasporas all over the world, and they take their fermented gundruk, which is basically radish greens and mustard greens, you know, they take it all over the world. And sometimes the custom
that you come across are both vegetarian and non-vegetarian. We have, I will start from non-vegetarian because that excites a lot to people in eastern part of India. Because we are, when you move to little south, probably because of the religion, and little west also because of the religion, many people are vegetarians. But east and north, they are mostly non-vegetarians and look at mutton, chicken, and this part of the country we look at a lot of fish. So coming back to dalma, we have a prawn dalma, shrimp dalma. We have a fish dalma, which we call it mudiganto. Then we have a very popular dalma called mutton dalma, which is mansa, sagwati dalma, we call it. Sagwati stands for goat meat. But the types of dalma in vegetarian section, we have two common dalmas, which is one that is cooked with mixed dals and all vegetables and mostly cooked at home. Then we have another one which is very particular but very limited to a particular month of Kartik, where we do the Habisa dalma. So they are the two ones which are cooked mostly at home. But these days we also make only one single vegetable added dalmas. Like one, we call it Amruta Bhanda dalma, which is basically papaya dalma. Then we do gobi dalma. So dalmas are varieties, and we look at occasions where we can create one dalma or other. That is how I look at Odiyas and dalmas. And the second question is about the outlet. Yes, unfortunately, we Odiyas are little subdued types. We generally don't boast about our cuisine, and we didn't do it till the social media came in the last 10-15 years. Bhubaneswar didn't have, for that matter, why Bhubaneswar? Anywhere in the country, we didn't have a organized restaurant serving Odia cuisine till end of the last century. So I thought that why not try, if we are selling South Indian thalis, why not sell a Odia thali? Some people thought that, Odia thalis are something which is available at home. Who is going to come out and eat? But I said, if they are going for South Indian thalis, why not try a Odia thali? That was an experiment which has succeeded. And I'm glad that today, a city like Bhubaneswar has at least 30 to 35 Odia restaurants. This is something which is a big achievement because we didn't have a single restaurant. So whether it is Dalma or other restaurant, there is one specialized restaurant in this particular hotel also called Kanika. So Dalma has probably initiated or commercialized the Odia cuisine and probably taken it a step ahead. Thank you.
Now, coming back to Madam Rana, Nepali cuisine, as far as I was concerned, I was there in Nepal last month. I met you also in September. It's also very highly influenced by the Tibetan cuisine. What are the variations the Nepalis make to the Tibetan momo? I think they make something like a momo curry.
Jolmo.
jhol momo. Then it's a particular type of mushroom they use, a big one, with the fry and also grill. Can you give some idea about the recent innovations that have been made in Nepali cuisine, both the street food and also the palace food, the royal food?
Okay, this is a very interesting question, but Nepal is very interestingly situated. The topography is one of our former kings, who was called the father of the nation, King Prithvi Shah, has called Nepal the yam between two stones. So we are the little buffer zone between the two biggest countries, China and India. In the north, we are influenced by China and Tibet, what was Tibet. And in the south, of course, we are influenced by India. So the northern influences have brought in the Chinese and the traditional Tibetan recipes to the northern areas, where they migrated from China and Tibet into Nepal and settled down and absorbed their culture, but retained their own culture from Tibet and China. So there's a very, like you talked about momos, there's thukpa, momos, siakpa, all that are very Tibetan. And now those communities are called Sherpas, right? Sherpas. And so they have brought these recipes and retained much of their old flavor. So I think, they have, let's say, amalgamated both. So they have the Tibetan flavor. And there's a very interesting story to the momos. Everyone thinks it's from Tibet, it's from China. There's two theories to the origin of momos, which I've written in my second cookbook. They both begin and end in Nepal. So one theory is that the Princess Brikuti of that time Nepali king, the Malla king, King Ansu Varma, his daughter, Princess Brikuti, got married to the Tibetan king, King Songsang Gampo. And they said with her trousseau, she took Nepali architecture, she took the Buddhist religion, and she even took the little Momo in her dowry to Tibet. And another story goes that the Nevaris are the indigenous inhabitants of Kathmandu Valley. So when they used to be trading with Lhasa, so they ate momo there, which was not called momo, it was called mugmug, and it had yak meat in it with a rough flour basin covering. They brought it back to Kathmandu, and slowly it got integrated into the Nevari cuisine, and from momo, from mugmug, it became mumu, and then it became momo. So either it went from Nepal or it came into Nepal, but Nepal is very much part of the Momo dynasty, which has become one of the hot-selling fast foods all over the world. And they're different. I have myself put in about 10 to 15 different types of momos in my second book. And I've even done fusion momos. So you have the typical, the original momo dishes. Then you have the Nepalese influences of choila momo and, jhol momo. And I've even done a chocolate momo and a, grilled momo. And I know in India, tandoori momo is greatly famous. So we've put in all these different sizzler momo, even a pizza momo. So it's all different types of momos. It's whatever your imagination takes you to, a momo can be integrated into it. And the explosion of flavor, the minute a hot momo hits your taste buds in your mouth, is something else. It transcends you to a different level. And to answer your second question of the mushrooms. So the mushroom is very similar to the shiitake mushroom. If you can get it fresh, you use it fresh. And it's also called the oyster mushroom, which is a different type, so that you get in the hills in the rainy season, is very widely available. So both these mushrooms can be dried because they don't last out the season. So they're dried and used throughout the year. And a very typical way of Nepali cooking is tempering. In Nepal, unlike India, we use spices. The same spices are used in different variations. We have two spices which are just indigenous to Nepalese food. One is jimbu and one is timur. Jimbu is mountain allium and timur is the Sichuan pepper. So we use those two and we temper food. like you prepare the food, you boil it or you stir fry it, and then in mustard oil and fenugreek seeds and this jimbu and timura added, and the dish is tempered with it. So वो जो बोलते हैं तड़का लगाना, so we तड़का लगाओ it, you know. So it's a very much lighter form of consumption and cooking. We don't douse it with a lot of spices, and it's not heavily cooked with heavy gravies. It's very stir fried and it's very light, and the food is very nutritious and very fresh. So that's the use of mushrooms there.
Madam, talking about your cuisine, you mentioned Yomari, did you?
Yomari, Nevari.
Nevari. Now, I'm told Yomari is basically steamed.
Yes. Yomari is a Nevari dish, is a sweet dish. It's a sweet dish which is prepared during a certain festival. It's called Yomari Purnia. So it is the Purnima of that month where Yomari is made. And this is mainly typical to the indigenous Nevari community. The Nevars are a special clan of people that originate from Kathmandu, and I've stayed there, and one of the most, let's say, talented communities we have. And they have this thing where they use molasses to stuff it into like a momo, like a rice flour sort of covering, and they steam it. So it's either molasses or it's coconut filling, khoya and coconut.
Mostly jaggery, jaggery thing. Yeah, molasses.
Molasses. Yeah, good.
We call it good.
Good is molasses. So
now, ma'am, let me come back to.
There are two types. There's white and the black. So the white is khoya and coconut, and the other one is molasses and coconut.
Why I asked you this is, many of in this room who are Odias would immediately connect to that, because we have something called monda.
Okay.
And it is white.
Right.
It is again stuffed. And we do it in two ways. We do steamed momo, sorry.
See, you're coming back to the momos. You're not going away from the momos.
I'm sorry. I hope there is no camera on. And the other one is the fried one.
Right.
Fried manda.
Yes.
But again, we use coconut. We also use good.
Okay. So see, these are these likenesses across cultures,
Yeah.
knowing no borders. In different ways, we are very, very similar. Yes.
Now we are talking of similarity. The Indian subcontinent food, I've read somewhere, I may be wrong. In fact, I watched a YouTube video. They said that only in the Indian subcontinent, that is India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Nepal, they have this concept of what is called baghar. We call it baghar. In North India and Nepal, perhaps they call it chonk.
Chonk, yes.
It's not there in any other country's food items. Even some people go to the extent of saying that it not only adds flavor and content, it is more scientific way of talking. May I request both of you to throw light on it?
Like I mentioned earlier, tempering is called, in English, let's say, is tempering. Like you say, it's called choka in India, it's got bagan. And in Nepali, it's called jhanni. So jhai, the sound that comes from the hot oil hitting the food that you're making, so it's called jhanni. And jhai, Nepalese is a very musical, sort of language also. So that, I think, is, like you said, is a very scientifically very healthy way of cooking, because you're not frying the vegetables, you're not frying the meat in a lot of oil, you're not removing all the flavors and the taste, you're retaining the flavor of the meat and the vegetables, and you're just putting a small tadka on top to retain flavors. Again, usually mustard oil is used, fenugreek seeds are used, and these herbs that we use a lot is jimmu and timur. We use til also a lot. We use a lot of sesame seeds. So that again has a lot of very good nutritional value. So all these, fenugreek again is supposed to be a great nutritional value spice. So all these things are again very light, very tempered, very nutritious. So this choka, I think, is a great, in dals, in vegetables, in meat, we use a lot of tempering. Thank you. Yeah.
Similarly in our, you must be knowing in detail that in India we also use chonk, and we in Odisha we have chunka, and we have the Bagaraja culture, and it is we have 5 spices we call panch putana. Panch putana is what we use. And interestingly, ma'am, Odia cuisine, which has strong roots in the temple cuisine of Odisha, particularly that of Lord Jagannath, and also in Puri, Bhubaneswar, the prasad that is made, that is cooked and then chonk is given. Once it is cooked, it is taken out and then we add the chonk on top of it. So, chonk part or the tempering part is rooted in our culture completely. And there are people who are from literary world here, and they would also agree that we use it chunko mariba, that chonk marna, in literally sense also. Like somebody is talking something, but somebody is coming and patching it up or making it even better or better presentation. So that is what we chunko mar,
Okay.
chonk mardi.
Right. Right.
Now, this is a literary festival. I'm a big food. I'm a big foodie, and I think that there can't be any literature without food. Food is the first that satisfies our stomach, it satisfies our mind, invigorates our mind, and then only the pen writes. Can Madam give some example of any of the, you yourself author of some of the celebrated books, but is there any literature based on food in Nepal?
Literature based on food, I really don't know, but we have some ceremonies and some rituals and customs that go back to Vedic times. During the Swamvar of Ram and Sita, when Lord Janak got his daughter Sita, she was Nepalese, married to an Indian prince. We still think that,
Sita incidentally was from Nepal.
Nepal. She's born in, yes, Janakpur, which is in Nepal. Then Nepal too. I don't think there was India and Nepal then. There were just different principalities. But now we know that she is our daughter married to the Indian prince. So Ram is our Jamai. So you take it that way. So when they got married, there was a Chaurasi Vyanjan which was served. So Raja Janak, in the preparation for his son-in-law, wanted a really lavish feast for him to be put forward. And still today, this Chaurasi Vyanjan, going back from the Ramayana till now, any ceremony that we have, whether it's the Annaprashan of the child, or the Bartaman, the thread ceremony, the Genoese ceremony, I think it's common also in India and in Nepal, or the Shadi. So they say Janam, Vyah, Bartaman, all these three ceremonies, they put forward a Chaurasi Vyanjan. So Chaurasi, this 84 types of different dishes. I don't think the little child who's eating rice for the first time, or the little boy who's doing his Bartaman, or the wedding couple partakes of the whole 84 dishes, but they put this plentiful amount of food in front of him. I think it's significant to hoping and praying and blessing the person who is partaking with plentiful of food and bountiful of food throughout his whole life. That is the significance behind it. So like Raja Janak started that ceremony, I think that is the Chaurasi Vyanjan. And I think you have a very similar ceremony happening
Yes.
here, the Chappan Bhog.
Chappan Bhog is
That
one.
takes place in the Jagatnathpur ceremony. So food and literature and ritualism is very, very connected, I think.
Not only that, to add to what you said, ma'am, we also have this festivity related dishes,
Absolutely, yes. Dishes during
which
festivities.
are cooked on just one day.
Just, yes, yes.
We have a dish which is very popular called enduri pitha. Now, enduri pitha is again steamed, but it is cooked just one day in a year.
Okay,
That is, we call it Prathamashtami, and that day enduri pitha is made.
right.
There is another, uh, you know, vegetable preparation called ganto torkari. Now, ganto is mixed of all vegetables that comes in front of you. You put it there, but that is again cooked one day of the year.
I think in Nepal also we have a lot of dishes which are very linked to special religious functions or festivals. We have one for Janai Punya. It's called Kwanti. So that time of the year, it's quite, it's getting cold. The cold is coming on. So they do this mixture of 9 beans, 9 lentils, from rajma to, to lobia to chickpeas to 9 different types of beans. And they're just not eaten like that. They're sprouted. They're sprouted for 9 days. And then on the day of that Janai Punya, you cook that as a jhol, as a soup. And it's eaten throughout the month because it's supposed to keep your immunity strong. They always had a scientific base to these things. All these religious functions which have certain dishes attached to them had a scientific base for it. They were even either prepared for the sowing of the harvest or the cutting of the harvest. Something was connected, like the green. I think you all have your, what is that called? Nuakhai, no?
Nuakhai.
Nuakhai.
Nuakhai is
Nuakhai is also cooked from that special grain that is just been harvested or grown or whatever. So all these special functions had these special foods related to them. Like in Holi, I come from UP. Before I got married, so we had to have gujia. So that gujia is famous. When you think of gujia as a child, when you think of Holi, you mentally connect it to gujia. This is gujia khane wala time, sort of thing, So all these
But
food
at the
and
same
religious
time, we
ceremonies,
have certain dishes which we cook every day,
I'm sure.
like mutton aloo jhol. The goat meat cooked with aloo and
Aloo.
gravy is something the Odias die for.
Okay.
A marriage feast is never complete without the mutton curry.
Of course. Of course.
And similarly, there are a number of other, dahi vada aloo is something which we would like to release every day. People in the neighboring city of Cuttack enjoy
Yeah,
it.
dahi bara
every day.
aloo is a strange combination. Aloo dum is normally made hot, piping hot, and dahi bara is cold, and they add it together, and that has become a signature dish of Odisha. So much so that now Vikas Khanna is serving it in his restaurant in New York.
That's really good. Yes.
Now I'll come back to my introductory part, which I asked. Is there any special cuisine the sadhavas, the traders, who used to go on long journeys from the eastern coast of India, then stopping at Sri Lanka and crossing over the ocean to go to Bali, Java, Sumatra? What exactly were the food that they used to cook? And they used to survive on that. Is there any documentary evidence or at least any oral legend about it? May I ask Devu about it?
There are a number of stories about it, but I wonder if there is any documentary evidence on this. Little that I know, other than this rice and dalma was something which was cooked by them basically because they could do it fast and there was nothing much to be added to it other than the staple vegetables which are going to continue for months. Like he mentioned about that pumpkin, and we have something called I just forgetting the name, desi alu. What that yam? That's one kind of yam. So these are the ones which are used in this cooking. And other than that, we used to use these sadhavas or the traders who were going on a long haul in their ships. They used to take a lot of non-veg dried fish.
Dried fish.
I'm told, I'm not, people who have knowledge over that would probably, of that culture would probably talk much about it. I have very limited information. But yes, they were carrying not only fish, they were carrying the fish sheets also. Fish sheets, dried fish sheets, are quite popular in this part of the country, and our people used to carry it with them for their non-veg relief in the ships.
We have something similar in Nepal, can I? We are similar in Nepal when they go for long journeys, and our topography being very harsh in the climatic regions as well. So there used to be, days and months on foot traveling from place to place. We have a thing called chura, called beaten rice. It's dried. I think you all have chidwa. We have chura. Ours is
Call it chuda.
yours is chuda, ours is chura. So a little bit of difference, but the thing is the same. Ours is a little harsher. I think it's a little more rough than yours. It's a finer variety. So that would be the staple. Let's say the carbohydrate, and then they smoked and dried meat. So when you went hunting, so that time in the old times, now they use mutton. Before they used to use deer. They would cut thin strips and put it over the hay fire for days. So it would just, with the smoke, it would dry out completely. And then if you wanted, you could pound it and you mix spices in it or mix a tomato ka achar in it and use it with the chura. And then you had your achars, of course. Your preserves were the things that went around, which lasted for days. And there's a very famous aloo ka achar. It's called aloo ka achar. It's made fresh. It can be eaten fresh, or it lasts at least a week. And the boiled potatoes, again, fermented. You are tempered with mustard oil and fenugreek seeds, and you add till and lime juice to it. So that would be a good accompaniment for a long journey. The chura, the meat, and the vegetable. So that, and we have dried fish as well. The dried fish we use also, but it's combined with a tomato pickle. So it's very interesting, how things are so similar and yet so different.
In addition to chuda, we also use the puffed rice, which
Puffed
is
rice.
called moody.
Moody. We don't have so much of moody except in the Tarai because that's more similar to the Indian border. But chura is eaten in Nepal, all over Nepal. Chura is eaten in Nepal.
Now, Devu just mentioned about fish seeds, matcha manji, what you call it. I'm forgetting the exact English name. It's very popular in most of the maritime countries. Caviar is different. Caviar is a specific fish. Sturgeon. This is raw. Fish raw. And the most popular in Puri district, coastal district, is the dried fish raw, made from a fish called khoinga, which is in English called khoinga sukwa, khoinga manji.
So that's our local version of caviar, I guess.
Yeah, it's the desi version of caviar.
We also make it, dried part is one. We also cook it fresh. We take it out from the, this happens mostly in the month of June, July, when the monsoon time, where you get a lot of fish head, and that we cook it with, add masalas to it and make vada type,
I think,
sausage.
you should go into competition with the Russian caviar now. Russian caviar is going to be unavailable.
Now, coming back to the fish roe, particularly the khoinga fish roe, mullet fish roe, it has become a rage in Japan. They're rearing mullet fish only for its roe. It is pressed, dehydrated, pressed, and this thing. Since he is a hotelier, I would request him to set up Khoinga Manji factory and do big business. Now, coming back to Madam, slightly inconvenient question. The huge consumption of buffalo meat in Nepal. Now, how is it that, I mean, you are all Hindus, we are also Hindus, we value the cow, as we call it, Gomata, its meat is forbidden. That how is it that buffalo, which is also an equally useful animal, is slaughtered? Its meat is taken, not only meat is taken, every part of buffalo meat is taken. Would you like to throw some light on it?
Okay, so this is a very interesting question. My husband likes to explain it via the Mahisasur ka desh, where Mahisasur was Vatan Karod by Durga Mata. So why waste the meat? So the people decided to eat it. But I think it has other connotations to it, where a country is not very well off. You know, Nepal is a harsh country. We have very drastic topography. We have the highest mountains in the world, where life is not easy. 6 months of the year, nothing grows. You know, you don't get fresh vegetables, you don't get to hunt meat, you don't get to do anything. So when I was doing my second book, to come to your question, when I was doing my second book, there's the main the main community that consumes the buffalo meat are the Newars, and they're concentrated in the Kathmandu Valley. So I was going around asking, for Newari cuisine, who cooks the best in their house, and we came to this couple, who's a very affluent couple and come from a Khandani family. He's a singer and, all that. So he prepared these vast amounts of food for us so that I could taste and then pick the ones best that I like to put in my book. And there were a lot of buffalo delicacies, which of course I restrained from eating, because being a Hindu, so I thought I can't eat the buffalo. And then he explained to me, and he said, I know why you aren't eating, because it's buffalo. And he said, do you think we couldn't have eaten mutton? Our community could have eaten mutton also. But we discovered that the buffalo is so much healthier than the goat. So I had a very disbelieving look when I looked at him. And he said, there is no fat in buffalo, while the goat contains a lot of skin and fat, which is consumed by the Nepalese. If the Nepalese society as a whole, if they cut a goat, they consume everything except the teeth and the horns, literally. And the buffalo is the same. So later, I went home and I Googled it. I didn't really believe him, And it came out true, that it's pure protein and has no fat in it as well. So it's healthier as a meat than the goat, which we, eat so happily and think of that. So I think the buffalo, because they have made it very convenient, said it isn't a cow. A cow is a cow, a buffalo is a buffalo. Like even in India, the Nilgai is consumed by some families. My cousin used to keep saying it's a misnomer. It's from the antelope family. It's not they called it Nilgai, but blue bull is not. It's from the antelope family. Is not. So I think they've worked this out in their brains and think it's absolutely kosher to consume it. And that's why they do it, and they think, and it's been proven to be a healthier meat than the goat meat.
Would you like to add something, Debu, before we throw it open for the audience to have some questions?
No, I think we open it because we have limited time. The girl was mentioning, so any question, then we can take it. There are 2, 3. Let me pass on the mic.
Very interesting listening to both of you. And of course, another common link between Orissa and Nepal is Lord Jagannath. So it's been really, really wonderful listening to you. I have just one question. While we are talking about the culinary heritage, right now we are going through this millet revolution. Can both of you throw some light on how millets have been a part of the culinary heritage of Nepal and Odisha? Thank you.
Should I go first? Thank you. Uh, this is such an interesting and important question, because I think our Asian mentality is to follow the West, and we got carried away by the rice and the wheat. What is typical of our countries? If you go into the hills in Nepal, who eats rice? Very few people can afford to eat rice. And even in the south, very few people can afford to eat. What did they eat? They ate millet, which is called kodo. They ate bajra. They eat makai. They eat buckwheat, amaranth. Those were the locally grown the grains that were. Now, I think to show that they're more affluent, the people started eating rice and wheat, you know. But actually, it's not part of the local culture. And now that this great green revolution has happened, and oh, it's the millet diet which is best, and it's become a fad now, the food fad, that I'm eating millet, and I'm having quinoa, and I'm having this. So it's really we aping the West instead of going back to our roots and looking at what our grandparents ate, which was the most healthy thing. So that's what I'd like to say to you.
Hello.
I think she wanted me to respond to that also. Now, being an Odia, talking of millet, I have just one word. Mandia Jau. So we Odias have been having Mandia Jau for ages, and I think it runs in the family, and it's easy to make. It's kind of a kheer. It depends. You can porridge. You can make it with. Salted version also, sweet version also, with milk, without milk, just water, and it is a staple food for all, and mostly people who are not in the lower strata of society, it's a delicacy for them. Mandia, the millet is the mandia ragi.
Yeah, it's been amazing listening to both of you to find the similarities between Nepali cuisine and Odia cuisine. My question is towards Mr. Patnaik. First of all, congratulations. I think Dalma was the first innovative restaurant who, popularized Odia cuisine. I was in Delhi, and I think that was the first Odia cuisine I found. But what intrigues me is what are the barriers that you find? Because in spite of Odia cuisine being so nutritious and being so varied, why we have not been able to popularize Odia cuisine throughout India? Leave aside now that Vikas Khanna is popularizing Pokhara and Dahi Bada, why we have not been able to popularize Odia cuisine? What are the main barriers? Because you are the first person account who can tell us the barriers and challenges, which I think government should also listen to.
Now, everything I'll give you in 3 sentences. Time is very limited, but let me tell you, we are lacking basically because we have not been able to take it beyond a certain level, mostly because we don't have good cooks. We don't have good chefs. And people who are, half of my industry, the industry, F&B industry, the food and beverage industry across the country, at least 40 to 50% is all Odias, manned by Odias. You go to Bombay, you go to Delhi, you go to Hyderabad, you go to Bangalore, you will see this industry is flooded with Odias. But nobody wants to be an Odia cook. No, nobody wants to specialize in Odia cuisine. And till date, there is you mentioned about the government, I am coming back to that. Till date, we don't have a course offering Odia cuisine. We have so many hotel management institutes, at least 10 or 15 we have in this state. Bhubaneswar has some 7, 8 of them. We don't have a course. We insisted with the government that please offer a Odia cuisine course. And we assure you that we will take all the students that come into this course. And this is being started in month of June with Institute of Hotel Management, Government of India, the one that we have in VSS Nagar. Tourism Department is sponsoring the course, and Dalma is taking all the 20 of them will join, and we are taking all of them. Once we have the manpower to cook that, then only we can think beyond Odisha, going beyond Odisha, or taking it to international level. Thank you.
There is one book I saw in Crown, Beyond Dalma. Very interesting title.
That's a book by one of our enthusiast food, Shweta Biswal. Shweta Biswal is into IT. She runs a startup, but she has come up with this fabulous book called Beyond Dalma. And when I'm talking Beyond Dalma, don't go by the Dalma outlet. She's talking of Dalma per se, the Odia Dalma. And it's a fabulous book. I think all Odias should have this book with them, because this is an attempt to popularize the Odia cuisine, Odia recipes beyond Odisha. Thank you.
Is there any other question? So, shall we call it a day today? Thank you so much. You have been excellent audience. My thanks to
No, special thanks to our moderator. Without him, we would have been lost. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for this one.